Tim in Wisconsin, pronouns are he, him, is a theist, calling in with a farmer's perspective. So yeah, I'm welcome, Tim. I don't know what you're calling about, but we're eager to hear it.
All right. Well, my first question might not be exactly what you're expecting, but do you know the name, or do you have any stories about your great 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 grandfather?
What?
I don't know for sure. I know that around that time frame, one of my great great grandfathers started one of the first three churches that formed the Southern Baptist Convention, but I'm not sure how many greats ago that was.
Six greats. That would be your grandfather, and then your great great great. So 5 greats, and then your grandfather.
I don't know how many greats it was for that person, but that's the only of all the greats.
Okay.
That's like the great before that one and the great after that one. I don't know any stories about them at all, but one of them in there.
Do you have a name? Do you have a name?
I have it in a document for somebody who did some genealogy stuff, but I don't know it off the top of my head. I know there's a Greenberry Dillahunty in my family, which I just love that name, but I don't know any stories about Greenberry.
Nice. But what I'm saying is, okay.
Hello?
I certainly don't.
Yeah, I'm here. So what you're saying is he didn't exist.
What?
No, I didn't say anything like that. I think I see exactly where you're going.
If you don't have any evidence,
hang on. Wait. I think I see exactly where you're going, and this is a big line of fallacious thought, because A, I didn't say that he didn't exist, and B, I didn't say that I didn't have any evidence. You asked me about a specific person and whether I knew any stories about them, and I don't. But that's separate from me saying I have no evidence of them, which isn't what I said and isn't true. And it's different from me saying that they don't exist. Meanwhile, as an atheist, I'm not saying God doesn't exist, and I'm not saying God doesn't exist because of a lack of evidence. I'm saying I don't believe that a God exists because there's a lack of evidence. Those are different things.
Okay. So what I'm trying to understand is, but what I'm saying is, so you know he existed, right? You know he exists. So there's something within you that says, I know that he exists.
Who?
Your great 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 grandfather. He had to have existed, right?
Yes. To the extent,
what is the evidence?
Hang on.
So what is the evidence?
If you ask me a question, let me fucking answer it.
Okay, that's fine. Sorry.
So, once again, the question that you asked is what? Hello?
But you don't have the name of, so he didn't. So what is the evidence that he existed?
So I have parents and they have parents, and the overwhelming evidence of how procreation works suggests that I, in fact, have a great, however many greats grandfather. I can do research. For example, I don't remember my great grandmother's maiden name, but I can go do research and find out my great grandmother's maiden name, or I know one of their maiden names. One of the other ones I don't know, but I could go do research and do it. I have family members who know. I can look up birth certificates and other things, so I can find out some things. But even if I couldn't find one, we know that those ancestors had parents. And so even if we know nothing about them, the fact that they had parents is just accepted.
Correct. So what I'm saying is there is an I that's within us that exists. And that's because of our genealogy that's here. Correct?
There's an I within us that exists, and it's because of our genealogy. I mean, I exist because the people before me had sex.
Are you not the evidence?
Why
are
you
people?
Fucking asking me again?
Sorry, I'm looking on you in the mute, and sometimes I'm watching your mouth.
turn off the show. It's on a turn off the show. It's on a 30-second delay, and pay attention to the fucking phone.
Makes sense. Okay. And then it cuts out sometimes. I apologize.
Yeah. Now I don't know what you were asking. Go ahead.
So what I'm saying is, do we know the nature of the I that exists? That right here in the present moment, the I that exists, that's beating the heart, that there's the noise that's in our heart that sparks, that's beating our heart, the source of that. Correct?
My
that's
heart,
the I and the five elements. This is how we are existing in the present moment. I want to the present moment.
Wow.
So why do you care about the great grandfather then if we're in the moment? How are you relating that? How are you relating that?
What I was trying to get back to is the present, because the I that exists is in the present moment.
No. So the I, as in I, myself, is an abstract.
The I am not the body.
Oh my God, would you shut the fuck up? Every time I open my mouth to talk, you jump in to say some shit. Do you want to learn or not?
Yes, I do.
Cool. The thing that I refer to as I, or me, the self, which is much clearer than continually, repeatedly saying I, the self is an abstract concept. It is a label that I put on this package of matter and energy in motion, this particular pattern. It does not, that concept does not cause my heart to beat. The fact that my heart beats provides blood to the rest of my body, including the brain, which produces the conscious awareness that allows me to make that assessment. What are you saying the self is, and how do you know?
Do you listen to NDE experiences?
I've heard many of them.
That I am not the body. The I am is not the body.
So they don't actually demonstrate that at all. The experiences take place after an event and are the brain attempting to make sense of a set of circumstances where it doesn't have sufficient information to reach a conclusion. So you can't reach a conclusion that because somebody had a near-death experience, that it tells you anything at all about the self, because you don't get the report on that experience until after it occurred and after the brain has made up a story to fill that time.
So are you suggesting that there's no viewer of that experience?
Well, there's a viewer of that experience, just like there's a viewer for any experience. The sort of Cartesian theater of the mind is how we picture that. But there's still a self that experiences, there's still a self that is telling that story. Whether or not the story that the self tells is accurate is another question.
Correct. Well, correct. But I'm correct. So I guess what I'm trying to is the earth. And I want to get back to the earth, fire, the five elements of how we're existing in this moment: the earth, the water, the fire, and the air, and the space.
Those elements are antiquated ideas that are not actually accurate models of what reality is made of.
Why do you say that?
Because
coming from a farmer's perspective, can I explain coming from a farmer's perspective? Can I give you a few of my just growing up in my experience of this experience? Is, for example, now this time of year.
What good can it possibly do if you're going to go from a colloquial, hey, I'm a farmer, here's how I describe the world, if that's not the accurate descriptions that science has taught us?
Well, obviously, there's questions that I ask when I'm doing these work. There's questions that I ask myself to understand the reality that I'm in, of course. But I do believe that the elements are accurate, because when we're growing corn, for example, we put the seed in the ground, and it takes the earth, and it takes pretty much the sun rays, which is a fire from the sun that uses to grow, and they use from the earth with from the water and the air and the space. That's how we get corn. And eventually that corn, what is the seed? Yeah, and then the seed is the genetic makeup we've made.
Is the seed fire, air, water, or earth?
Yes.
Okay, I'm done.
Mandisa, you're muted.
Mandisa, you're muted. I'm so sorry. I wasn't looking at the screen to let you know.
Sorry about that. No, sorry about that. I was just trying to say, well, did the corn have a great grandfather?
Yes, because through farming, we've understood in genetics, and we actually can breed it. I'm saying yes, there is. We can breed genetics based on whether we want for, let's say, a taller stalk for corn silage versus a bigger ear for. You can do that, and there's memory built into that genetic, which was also made from the prior year's corn that we actually got, and we actually improved through genetic makeup. Yes.
Okay.
Yes, that's how we're improving corn and quality, and that's how we're improving cows and everything as well, because we understand. From farming, I've seen many generations of cows, and I've seen the change, the similarities, and the memory that's made up in the genetic, and it's all based because eventually we feed that corn goes into that cow, and eventually turns into that cow. And tell me how that happens.
It happens. Tell you how what happens? Like how the production, how does corn go in? No, go ahead.
I feed my cows corn, and guess what happens? It turns into a cow.
No, it doesn't.
The cow eats it, and how does it? Then how does it? Then how does the cow grow with the meat and stuff? So when I don't, so how does it grow?
Your body, and the cow's body break down food.
Correct.
Into
fire.
Into specific,
which is fire.
Oh my! Shut up. Cows and other animals break down the food they eat into the constituent parts, but they don't break it down into air, earth, fire, and water. They could break it down into chemical structures that we know that don't fit into air, earth, fire, and water. While H2O is what we call water, there are other liquids that aren't water. Right?
Correct. But we're talking about a cow that's made up of these things. I'm talking about a cow.
If there's a liquid that isn't water, is that liquid air, fire, or earth?
If that liquid isn't water?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Name what liquid is liquid that has no water in it.
I didn't say, first of all, that there was a liquid that had no water in it. I said, if there was a liquid that wasn't water, water being H2O. But okay, oil.
Oil. Yes, that is correct. We use oil for lubricants, and it is part of, and it's actually in the earth, right? And it's burning.
Is it water? Oh, so you're saying oil is earth?
It's concentrated, squeezed down from all the minerals and stuff, squeezed from rain, and yes.
No, Tim, Tim, that's not where oil comes from. It's not squeezed down from rain. So you still have the Aristotelian.
Fossil fuels and
I'm sorry, but I'm still talking. So you still have this antiquated, debunked Aristotelian essentialist view of air, earth, fire, and water, which is not at all consistent with the findings of modern science, and you don't know where oil comes from. So what's the point? What are you going to demonstrate a God or anything at all in this? Or are you just going to keep presenting antiquated, debunked, non-scientific ideas about how the world works?
So I was trying to explain. So I don't feed oil to my cows, but I'm trying to explain what I'm trying to explain to is when a cow.
no, Tim, before you go on,
eventually turns into a cow.
Tim, before you go on, the sentence you just said, I don't feed oil to my cows. How is that relevant to anything I asked or discussed?
Because you mentioned that there was nothing, because when I was talking about what I feed to a cow, you changed the subject on what I was trying to explain of what a cow eats and digests, and it eventually is this cow. And you kind of changed the subject, and it kind of caught me off guard. That's my, because I'm just field farming. Obviously, like I've seen cows that have like 107 temperature before. So obviously, there's things that there's energy in these cows that there is fire within all of our beings.
Tim, congratulations. There's nothing I can say, and there's no way for me to help you. For whatever reason, you are so misinformed that I don't know any way for anybody to, like, we would need to take you back to elementary school and start teaching you the facts about science and chemistry and all that, because you seem to have, you seem to definitely be hung up on what cows are doing, as if that demonstrates the basic building blocks of the universe. And I'm not convinced that anyone anywhere can go from cows eat corn to make new cows. Therefore, I've discovered Aristotle was right, and it's all earth, air, fire, water, and possibly ether. That is,
and also
in the present,
if you can't trace your great grandfather and have his name in no stories, then all of a sudden, that explains God too. I mean, that's what I'm getting from that as well.
Yeah, Tim hung up. I was really trying to see what we could get, but yeah,
we need to get on those grandfather stories then. Those great grandfather stories. I mean, I'm just still trying to figure out how we ended up from knowing about which ancestor and what information we knew about our ancestors to that.
Yeah. I guess what I could have done, which is really easy, is say that water is H2O. And if water is H2O, and we know that water is made up of hydrogen and oxygen, which element is hydrogen and oxygen? I mean, neither of them are liquids at, normal temperatures. I mean, obviously you can get liquid oxygen, but air isn't oxygen. As a matter of fact, the air we breathe has more nitrogen. But if you were to say that hydrogen is water and oxygen is air, then when you combine water and air, you get water. I mean, we've gone from these hypothetical Aristotelian primitive approximations of what things might be made of. Air, earth, fire, water, and ether, because he needed something that was incorruptible. And then, despite that information, we started to actually continue exploring the world. And we found out that the very idea that there could be as few as 4 basic building blocks, and that they were those 4, is completely flawed. That what's actually happened here is the failure of argument via analogy. And so we're wonderful. I mean, human beings fuck all kinds of things up, but to the extent that we're good at anything, we are both good at and terrible at, in differing amounts, understanding the world. Because when we see something, first thing we try and do is say, does it fit into any of the boxes I already know?
Right.
And that's good. By and large, if you're correct that it does fit into a box you already know, then your work's done and you can move on with your day. And you don't have to sit there and toil over, gosh, I wonder what this is. But every now and then we find that there's something that doesn't fit neatly into the box of what we did before. And so when Aristotle proposes that everything is earth, air, fire, and water, some people are just going to accept it. And evidently some people are going to accept it millennia later. But other people are like, hang on, we've learned more. We now know about atoms and we know about the parts of atoms. If you're going to say everything's made up of earth, air, fire, and water is made up of hydrogen and oxygen are made up of electrons, neutrons, and protons. Well, is a proton earth, air, fire, or water? This is pretty straightforward, and it's because we learned more. It's not because it was a dumb idea. It's because we start with an analogy, and then we start doing the testing, and we say, does this fit? Does this work? Does this increase and improve our understanding of things, or does it detract from it?
Hey there, Eric. Noting that anyone watching that clip makes atrociously poor life decisions, where should they send their protection money to prevent further damage?
All protection money should be sent to patreon.com/calltheline, or else we will break your kneecaps.
Okay, we can't say that. I think we can't say that.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Yeah. Hit like and subscribe.